So I've played a fair few video games in my time, and I've noticed one of the main things about them that really draws you in is the ability to make choices. In Fallout, you decide which faction to help take over a post-apocalyptic wasteland. In Knights of the Old Republic and Fable, you decide whether to be a perfectly heroic saint or a cartoonishly evil villain with nothing in between. And in interactive cinema games like The Wolf Among Us and Life is Strange, you'll constantly be deciding everything, right down to what you're going to eat for breakfast. This got me thinking about the experience of making choices in real life. It's usually pretty far from the empowering experience of game choices, and the main reasons for this are the level of impact your choices have and how obvious that impact is. In games, the impact of your choices is massive. These virtual worlds are set up so that everything happens because of you. If you didn't show up, then the NPCs would just stand around doing their set routines and nothing would ever change. In reality, we don't get to make that many truly pivotal decisions. Maybe a few times over the course of your life you'll decide to do something like switch careers or move halfway across the world. But even when you're going out of your way to live that kind of decisive life, these things really don't happen all that often. So that's where the feeling of our choices lacking impact comes from. The second problem is that even when our choices are having an impact, it's just not clear and obvious enough. This comes up a lot when we're choosing to improve a skill or try to achieve something. If I read a book, I can't tell how much I actually gained from that. Did I gain a point to intelligence? Maybe. Was that thing I learned about the best possible thing I could have chosen to learn about? I don't know. And you can't possibly know. You have no idea how much your choices are really impacting things. And that makes the whole process far less satisfying. And this lack of satisfying decisions with a clear payoff means more than just missing out on a quick jolt of positive emotion that comes with making a good choice. It can make people feel truly powerless. If you don't feel like you're having an impact, then it can start to seem like stuff is just happening to you without you getting to have any input. Like you're an NPC yourself instead of the protagonist of your own life. If this feeling goes on for too long, it can wreck your motivation for even trying to decide anything. Fortunately, there is a solution to this. It's a way of transforming the kind of small decisions we make all the time into something with a lot more oomph behind them. I found it in a book called Atomic Habits, where, in amongst the hundreds of other pieces of good advice, there's a brief mention of a concept called Decisive Moments. These are small decisions that are a lot more than they appear to be, because they set the course for an entire day. For me, the main decisive moment of a day happens in the morning when I sit at my computer and choose between reading an ebook or browsing the internet. In both cases, I'm looking at a screen, but I become a completely different person depending on this first choice. The reading version of me feels motivated by uplifting self-improvement material. He's likely to go on to write some content for YouTube, exercise while he's at peak energy, and then use that momentum to work productively for the rest of the day. The web browsing version of me ends up spending a couple of hours watching videos until he finally feels guilty enough to make himself start working. But for the rest of the day, he's chased by this feeling that he's behind. The frustration of that need to catch up for all the things he should have done earlier makes his productivity fall off a cliff. We all have our own decisive moments throughout the day. Deciding to ride your bike or drive your car, work on your business goals or pull out your phone, do your homework or pick up a game controller, cook some healthy food or order takeout. These are the kind of choices that influence every choice that comes afterwards. Decisive moments are kind of like the entry ramp to an aeroplane. Once you've boarded, it's going to take you somewhere and there's really no getting off until it's done that. If you visualize every choice you make in a day as a step in a branching decision tree that determines whether the day will end up being a good one or a bad one, then the decisive moments increase the probability of future good choices being made because they set the options available to your future self. It's like when you go to a restaurant. You can only choose from what's actually on the menu. Yes, there's still choices to be made, but that first decision decides which options you'll be choosing between. This means that if you put on athletic clothes, then you're more likely to work out. And if you start reading or working on something, then you're likely to continue. And if you're in a good mood because of a previous decision, you're more likely to make more good decisions in the future. This is why mastering the decisive moments throughout the day is so important. If you get those few critical decisions right, then your chances of ending up in the upper part of that day's decision tree skyrockets, and then each day adds into the overall branching story of our lives. To find out what your own decisive moments are, you should think about the first thing you did during your free time, the last time you had either a really good or a really bad day. For most people, it's going to be the moment they choose between playing video games, browsing social media, watching videos, or doing that really cool thing they've been thinking about doing for a while that requires a ton of energy and really has to be done before any of that other stuff. Zero in on that moment and decide in advance which choice you're going to make. Tell yourself you'll make the same choice consistently for 2 to 3 weeks to test out how well it works and what kind of an impact it has. This way you have a very achievable victory condition, and you're not telling yourself you have to do something every day for the rest of your life or you failed. To make it even more likely that you meet your victory condition, you can also use something called the 2-day rule. This is allowing yourself to skip a day occasionally, but never 2 days in a row. This way you give yourself the leeway to not have to be completely perfect, but you also make it easier to keep your promise to yourself. When you manage to find a choice to make in your decisive moments that allows you to control the course of entire days in an instant, you'll experience the rush of power that comes from making impactful choices far more often. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, then make sure you click like, because that way more people will get to see this video and they'll be able to benefit from it too. And that way really everybody wins. Have a great day.